Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 10, Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwarka, Text 26. Aho alalam slagayatmamam yado kulam. Aho alam slagyatamam yado kulam. Aho alam punyatamam madhurvanam. Yaresha pumsam rishabhasriyapati. Svajanmana chankramanena chanchati. Aholam shlagyatamam yado kulam. Aholam punyatamam madhurvanam. Yad esha pumsam rishabhasriyapati. Svajanmana chakramanena chanchati. Yapati. Olam Sagamaryatamam Yadokulam. Aholam Punyatamam Madhuravanam. Yadesha Pumsam Rishabhasriyapati. Sajanmana Chankramamena Chanchati. Ladies, aho, oh, alam, verily, slagya tamam, supremely glorified, yado, of King Yadu, kulam, dynasty, aho, oh, alam, verily, punyatamam, supremely virtuous, Madhovanam, the land of Mathura, Yat, because, Esha, this, Pumsam, of all living beings, Rishabha, the supreme leader, Shriya, of the goddess of fortune, Pati, husband, Svajanmana, by his appearance, Chakramena, by crawling, Sa Anchati, glories. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. Please repeat. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. Purport in the Bhagavad Gita, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has expressly given a description of his transcendental appearance, disappearance, and activities. The Lord appears in a particular family or place by his inconceivable potency. He does not take his birth as a conditioned soul, quits his body, and accepts another body. His birth is like the appearance and disappearance of the sun. The sun arises on the eastern horizon, but that does not mean that the eastern horizon is the parent of the sun. The sun is existent in every part of the solar system, but he becomes visible at a scheduled time, and so also becomes invisible at another scheduled time. Similarly, the Lord appears in this universe like the sun, and again leaves our sight at another time. He exists at all times and every place, but by his causeless mercy, when he appears before us, we take it for granted that he has taken his birth. Anyone who can understand this truth in terms of the statements of revealed scriptures certainly becomes liberated just after quitting the present body. Liberation is obtainable after many births and after great endeavor in patience and perseverance, in knowledge and renunciation. But simply by knowing in truth about the Lord's transcendental births and activities, one can get liberation at once. That is the verdict of the Bhagavad Gita. But those who are in darkness of ignorance conclude that the Lord's birth and activities in the material world are similar to those of the ordinary living being. Such imperfect conclusions cannot give anyone liberation. His birth, therefore, in the family of Yadu, King Yadu, as the son of King Vasudeva, is transferred into the family of Nanda Maharaj in the land of Mathura, are all transcendental arrangements made by the internal potency of the Lord. The fortunes of the Yadu dynasty and of the inhabitants of the land of Mathura cannot be materially estimated. If simply by knowing the transcendental nature of the birth and activities of the Lord, one can get liberation easily, one can just imagine what is in store for those who actually enjoy the company of the Lord in person as a family member or as a neighbor. All those who are fortunate enough to associate with the Lord, the husband of the goddess of fortune, certainly obtain something more than what is known as liberation. Therefore, rightly, the dynasty and the land are both ever glorious by the grace of the Lord. Aho alam slagyatamam yado kulam, aho alam punyatamam maduravanam, yadesha pumsam rishabak sriyak pati, sujanmana chakramanena chanchati. Oh, how supremely glorified is the dynasty of King Yadu, and how virtuous is the land of Mathura, where the supreme leader of all living beings, the husband of the goddess of fortune, has taken his birth and wandered in his childhood. Namo Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vacharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Sadarane. To understand Krishna in truth, tattvata, is not so easy. But the easiest process is still not easy. But it's easier than the other processes. As Krishna had said in the Bhagavad Gita, that there is a process of karma yoga, there's the process of jnana yoga, there's the process of Ashtanga yoga. So none of these are easy. Dayanatmani pashanti, kechidatmanam atmanam, Ane Sankhena Yogena Karma Yogena Chapare. So some people, they understand Krishna by the process of dhyana, focusing the mind on him. Dhyana Atmani Pashanti, and therefore they can see Krishna. Dhyana Atmani Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam. Others, by performing activities without desiring results. Dhyana Atmani Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam Anye Sankhena Yogena. Others through discrimination of matter from spirit by the process of Sankhya Yoga. Dhyana Atmani Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam Sankhena Dhyana Atmani Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam Anye Sankhena Atmani. That's not right either. Atmani Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam Anye Sankhena Yogena Karma Yogena Chapare. Ke Chit is some, Atmanam, the Supreme Soul. So some by dhyana, by focusing the mind, can see the Super Soul within themselves. Ayanatmini Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam Anye Sankhena Yogena. Some by studying and by austerity and by discrimination of matter from spirit can understand about Brahman. Anye Karmanena Sankhya Chapare. Ayanatmini Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam Anye Sankhena Karmanam Sankhya. Anye Sankhena Yogena Karma Yogena Chapare. So there are different. We've heard so many times about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Astanga Yoga, and all these processes will gradually purify the mind, because the mind is always the center of either material life or spiritual life. When the mind is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, conscious of Krishna, just remembering what Krishna's name, just feeling Krishna's name or remembering Krishna's name. So the mind is not material. It may not be perfectly spiritual, but at least it's not material. And when the mind can remember or feel Krishna's presence, that's called further advancement, when we can actually feel Krishna's name. And when we can remember Krishna's form, that's further advancement. And when we can remember his associates and their activities, that's still further advancement. And that's called advancement in Krishna consciousness. So that's, the yogis did that. Dhyana Atmani Pashanti Ke Chit Atmanam. So the yogis did that by concentrating their minds. So we can also try and concentrate our minds. But unfortunately our minds are not so strong that when we concentrate on them, we get much result. And therefore we don't tend to try to concentrate our mind all the time on Krishna. But in the age of Satyuga, Kriteta Dhyayato Vishnum, people's minds were much stronger. And therefore, they had stronger intelligence, they had stronger minds, they had stronger determination, and therefore they could actually focus their minds on Krishna in meditation. And it was such that although they had to do it for 10,000 years, the 10,000 years went very quickly compared to what we're suffering. When you're enjoying, time goes quick. So although it took them 10,000 years, they didn't really notice the 10,000 years so much. Now, 10 minutes we notice, because we're not exactly in the mood of enjoying all the time. Nayanatmani pashanti kechid atmanam atmana anye sankyena yogena. And by the process of, if we can't meditate, then there's the process of sankhya. That is, trying to understand by philosophy and by discrimination, so that instead of becoming attached to the objects of the senses, we become attached to Krishna. We develop faith, and therefore by knowledge, we give up our material attachments and we accept Krishna consciousness. And therefore, part of that, though, is Sankhya Yoga, as explained as a part of in the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, also means to give up sense gratification, perform some austerities, regularly fasting, giving up unnecessary activities. So that's possible in other ages. What was possible in Krita Yuga, Kriteta Dyato Vishnum, Tretiyam Yajato Mukhai, Dwarpyam Paricharyam, Kalota Dari Kirtanam. So people in Treta Yuga, after the Satya Yuga, they were able to understand that everything is meant for sacrifice. So that's called knowledge. The whole world is meant for Yagya vai Vishnu. Sacrifice something for Vishnu. So that's the perfection of knowledge. And by such perfection of knowledge, one is able to meditate upon Krishna. If everything is sacrificed for Krishna, then naturally one will think about Krishna. But when one's given up sacrifice in Treta Yuga, then Dwapara Yuga, of course the yugas are reversed in this age, so it's a little different. Somehow or another, Dwapara Yuga should be second, and Treta Yuga should be third. But for some reason they were reversed before Krishna came. In any case, in Dwapara Yuga, people engage in sacrifice to the deities. And in Treta Yuga, the third yuga, then people engage in karma yoga. I guess, anyhow, it doesn't make any difference. Either by sacrifice to the fire, or by worship, by offering everything to the deity in Dwapara Yuga. Then one comes to the platform of Kali Yuga. Well, we don't want to offer anything to Krishna. We're not in the mood of doing what Krishna wants us to do. Nor do we want to give him anything. Nor do we want to think about him. Therefore, Kalota Dari Kirtana. Therefore, in Kali Yuga, the only process that's feasible is to actually chant Hare Krishna. And then by getting a little taste for Krishna consciousness, for the chanting, then one should naturally try to control the mind and senses and follow the principles. And in other words, one should utilize one's senses in Krishna's service so that one gets a taste to avoid sense gratification. If one doesn't do that, then the chanting really has very little effect. If one is not prepared to control the mind and senses, then one will not be able to actually feel Krishna's presence in the name, or to speak of remembering him in advance. So therefore it's not only the chanting, but it's also devotional service. That is, devotional service beginning with hearing about Krishna, learning how to hear the holy name, trying to understand things properly, how everything here belongs to Krishna and is meant for his service. So that's perfection of karma yoga. So sometimes karma yoga is also considered devotional service when one is utilizing everything for Krishna. Karma yoga without Krishna consciousness is, as it says, that it doesn't look very good. Naishkarmyam apyachuta vivarjitam nishobhyate jnanam alam niranjanam. That knowledge without Krishna consciousness, let's see, Naishkarmyam, karma yoga without Krishna consciousness doesn't look very good. Naishkarmyam apyachuta vivarjitam nishobhyate jnanam alam niranjanam. So, the idea of karma yoga is Krishna consciousness. We do things to please Krishna. We do things in Krishna consciousness, in devotional service, to please Krishna, and that naturally we'll think about him. And if we think about him, then we'll experience him, because there's no difference between thinking about Krishna and experiencing him. Therefore, there's a difference between chanting Krishna, Hare Krishna, and chanting some mundane vibration. The only difference is that if our consciousness is covered, we don't notice much of a difference. For a self-realized soul, that chanting Krishna's glories means to directly associate with Krishna. And for materialists, chanting Krishna may not have much of an effect. One may actually, if one is chanting offensively, then one may not notice any difference. As a matter of fact, one may even become more covered if he doesn't understand what he's doing, if he doesn't hear it from the right source and try to chant in the right way. It says that when the Mayavadis chant Hare Krishna, they become even more offenders. They become even more degraded because of the wrong conception. It's like when one has the opportunity to associate with devotees, it's a great opportunity to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. But if one offends the devotees as an offense against the holy name, then it becomes even more difficult to become conscious of Krishna. Therefore, when people have become too intellectual, as Prabhupada, we can see in the garden when Prabhupada was talking to the professors from the universities, and he was saying, Krishna, we understand that he has all opulence, he has all beauty, he has all knowledge, he has all fame, he has all renunciation. So what is a better definition of God than that? Why don't you accept that that's God? Can you come up with a better definition of God than the person who has unlimited beauty, unlimited knowledge, unlimited fame, unlimited wealth, unlimited strength, and unlimited renunciation? What could be a better definition of God than that? But they wouldn't accept it. As a matter of fact, when Prabhupada said that you're not theologians, you're theosophists, you're just speculating, they got insulted. Why are you insulting Professor Cromley? He's a nice person. He's doing, But the professors at the university, they're so-called religionists, but they won't even accept God. So how can there be a religion without God? Religion for what? What is it? The purpose of religion, dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat praninatam, is to understand God. God is being presented before them. Just like Krishna came before Kamsa, he came before Hiranyakashipu, he became before so many different demons, but none of them accepted him as God. Ravana did not accept Lord Ramachandra as God. He thought he was just an ordinary person. Avajananti mamuda, manushim tanum ashrityam, parambhava majanato mama bhuta maheshwaram. They just thought he was an aborigine coward boy. Therefore, moga isha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasaha rakshasem asrim chaiva prakriti mohanim shita. Therefore their hopes for liberation, their fruitive activities, and their culture of knowledge were all defeated. They didn't get anything. They couldn't, they may have been, like Ravana was a very learned personality, ruling his kingdom very nicely, but because he was envious of Lord Ramachandra, the whole thing was a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. He never got, the result is he had to take birth again, because he was a gatekeeper from Vaikuntha, therefore he took birth again as Shishupal. Another opportunity to blaspheme Krishna, fight against him. He didn't learn his Hiranyakashipu, he didn't learn his Ravana, and he hardly learned his Shishupal, except he got his throat cut off by the Susan chakra. I guess he learned something. On the other hand, when we say, Daiviyesha gunamayi mama maya duratya, mameva ye prapadyante, mayunitam durantite. The material nature is very difficult to overcome, but those who take shelter of Krishna can easily cross beyond it. So the mood of shelter, of surrender, not just we're doing our activities mechanically or just without any consciousness, that's all right. It's better than doing something which is going to degrade our consciousness, but it's not the perfection. Or even to understand theoretically everything here belongs to Krishna, but I don't mind stealing from Krishna. It belongs to Krishna theoretically, but I utilize it as I want, without any thought of what Krishna wants. I don't accept anyone as an authority, as a representative of Krishna. My mind is the ultimate authority. And if my mind does something bad, that's not so bad. If someone else does something wrong, oh, that's terrible. That's why I don't give anything to anyone, except I just follow my mind. Therefore it says, Kamarinam katida palitas dorni deshas tesham jatamayi na karuna natrapa no pushanti. So the devotee is saying, I'm being directed in so many different ways by my mental concoction and my senses, but I don't mind. Na trapa, na karuna, no pushanti. I don't, because I'm never embarrassed by what my mind tells me to do. I think that's my bona fide master, is my mind. Now, if someone else does something, if my mind tells me to do some abominable thing, I don't mind because it's my mind. If someone else makes a mistake and tells me to do the wrong thing, someone else's mind, then I become very belligerent towards that person. How dare you tell me to do the wrong thing? Only my mind can tell me to do the wrong thing. So that's called Maya. Therefore, mogaisha moga karmano moga jnana vichetasa. All our misconceptions, all our bad, foolish activities, all our so-called cultivation of knowledge, they're just a waste of time if we don't accept Krishna. And what is Krishna, accepting Krishna? Daivi yeshu gunamayi. No. Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakriti mashitya vijnananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyam. Those who are great souls are under the internal energy. So even at the beginning, when we're fools number 1 or 2 or 3, sadatam kirtiyantama, if at least we're chanting Krishna's glories, we're making some progress. Maybe not such obvious progress, but there's some progress. But what is that progress? Namasyantasamam bhaktya nityukta upasade. Surrender to Krishna's instructions. Engage in devotional service to Krishna. We can chant and chant and chant, but our chanting becomes more purified and more, we can experience it more, the more we come to the platform of surrender to Krishna, by further surrender to Krishna, not only chanting His glories, but doing what Krishna wants us to do. So we have to look, does Krishna want me to do this? Does He want me to do something different? What does Krishna want me to do? What does Krishna not want me to do? Otherwise, we can go on chanting and chanting, but if we don't come to that platform of stopping to do what Krishna doesn't want us to do, or we should say doing what Krishna wants us to do, and stopping to do what Krishna doesn't want us to do, then where is the surrender? Where is how are we going to experience Krishna's name, form, quality, and pastimes? Anakulasya sankalpe pratikulyasya vardhana rakshisya titi vishvaso goptrive varnam tata. Atman viksheka sankalpe shadvida sharanagati. So our path is that of sharanagati. The chanting should help us come to the platform doing more and more what we should be doing and less of what we're not supposed to be doing. What we're supposed to be doing is always remembering Krishna and never forgetting Him. But if we do what Krishna wants us to do, to please Him, an authorized activity, then to please Him, then naturally we'll remember Him. And if we do some whimsical activity without any authorization, then we'll never remember Krishna. And namasyantas shrimam bhaktya nitukto pasade. Namasyantas. So we were doing the authorized activity and we're actually experiencing Krishna. Then we actually start developing some attraction to surrender to Krishna. That's called humility. We may be very humble in front of others, but that's nothing, be humble before Krishna. If we're envious of insignificant living entities, then there's no hope. If we're envious of someone who has a little bit more wealth than we do, how much more envious we're going to be of Krishna? If we're envious of someone who's more beautiful than we are, how much more envious we're going to be of Krishna? And naturally, one of the tests is that we should stop being envious of everyone else. If we appreciate the Supreme Being, then everyone else is easy to appreciate because they're little parts and parcels of Krishna. If we're not envious of Krishna, then we won't be envious of anyone else because that's the real test. And if we're envious of anyone, then how can we not be envious of Krishna? If we're envious of the little part and parcels, a little bit, someone is a little stronger than we are, we're envious of them. How can we not be envious of the person who's moving all the planets? Millions of times, billions, unlimitedly more strong and intelligent and beautiful than any living entity within this universe. And if we listen to the holy name, if we try to listen to the scriptures, if we try to serve the deities, if we try to serve the devotees, if we try to make some effort, then Krishna will help us make our hearts purified so that we can accept Him within our heart also, with some appreciation. And only by that love and appreciation can we experience Krishna. Otherwise, how can we experience Krishna without some love and appreciation for Him? Therefore, the conclusion is, there's a science behind tattvataha, experiencing Krishna in truth, and that's the science of Krishna consciousness and devotional service, which we're trying to understand and put into our practice within our lives, so that we can actually Krishna will reveal Himself to us, and we can actually say we're actually more and more conscious of Krishna every day. We're feeling Krishna's presence, we're understanding Him in truth better, we're understanding everyone and everything in relationship to Krishna, and all our misconceptions we're becoming gradually free from. All our reluctancy to serve Krishna and appreciate Him and His devotees, we're gradually becoming free from. That's called freedom. Everyone else is just becoming more and more entangled in so-called, material existence, and even so-called liberation is not really liberation if it doesn't include Krishna within it. Naishkarmya apyuchuta varjitam nishobhyate jnana alam ranjanam kutak punascha bhadramishvare nicharpitam karnam abha. This is chapter 5. Text number 12. Naishkarmyam apyachuta bhava vivarjitam nishobhyate jnanamalam ranjanam putak punas badram kutak punas shasvata badram ishvare necharpitam karma yadapya karanam. So what to speak of materialistic activities, which are not naturally painful from the beginning to the end. If we're not doing something for Krishna, we're not understanding Krishna in truth, we're after so-called liberation from the material world without Krishna, then nothing is really very valuable, what we're doing. So I'll stop there. Any questions? Ooh. I didn't confuse everyone. Yes.
I was reading in Nectar of Devotion about, or in general, in our books, that when we are, for example, now Kartik is there, Kartik is going on. When we are offering the lamb, the one who offers the lamb, his, things like his karmas are eradicated, or he gets liberated, and things like that. All these things are always there. So
where is that? You mean the Nectar of Devotion?
Yeah, but
because people they're not interested in Krishna. They're interested in some kind of everything. They want everything, but they don't want Krishna. We take freedom from distress, it's called liberation, and opportunities to gratify our senses, that's called material happiness. So we want those two things. We want to gratify our senses so we're peaceful and happy. Nice air, nice food, nice water, nice relationships. And we ultimately want to get out of it all, because that doesn't make us supremely happy. We want to get out of it, but we don't want Krishna. Therefore, sometimes there's allurements. If you read this chapter in Srimad Bhagavatam, all your enemies will be defeated. So I don't want Krishna, but I want to defeat my enemies, so I'll read the chapter. But if one keeps on reading the chapter, then one thinks, well, Krishna's not so bad too, eventually. Then you think, my real enemy is my mind. Maybe I should defeat that.
But it was mentioned something like the devotee gets free from like material pangs or something.
Yeah, because we're fruited. We want everything but Krishna. It's like they want to feed, the child is supposed to get some medicine, but he doesn't want to take the medicine. So the mother says, if you take the medicine, I'll give you a lollipop. So he doesn't want to take the medicine because he wants the lollipop. So then he takes the medicine and he gets the lollipop. He thinks, well, that wasn't so bad. The lollipop at least was good. So we read these books, we're not so much inclined to hear about the glories of Krishna, because basically we're envious of him. But at the end, if we think, I'll get a lollipop, then I'll read it. If I get liberated, or I get my bank balance increases, or whatever. I get name, fame, power, position, then I'll read the story, the lollipop at the end. Yeah, if I have to hear about Krishna, okay, if I'm going to get this benefit. Just like Dhruva Maharaj went through so much austerity because he wanted some benefit. He wanted the lollipop at the end. But because he went through the austerity, eventually he got Krishna, and he didn't want the lollipop. He realized it was not good for his teeth. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, what similar question, but vice versa, like I heard recently a lecture Amarenda Prabhu gave. He was reading from...
Who gave it?
Amarenda.
Magendra?
Amarenda.
Amarendra.
Prabhu, like he was quoting from different Puranas that the one who is not performing Kartik Vrata is considering to get a sin killing his own parents, or cow, or Brahmana.
If you don't observe Kartik Vrata. Yeah, well, you have to get... The scriptures also, they offer a lollipop, and they also say, if you don't take the lollipop, we'll give you the club.
Same thing.
Otherwise, with that little fear, we don't do anything. Fear is a big motivator, too. But if you don't observe Kartik Vrata, I don't think they're going to come and arrest you. But, in one sense, if we don't take Krishna consciousness seriously, we may wind up in material activities, and we may wind up doing abominable activities. If we don't get a higher taste, we're dragged down by the modes of nature. So it's not only exaggeration, it's a fact. What's that?
Yeah,
it's a warning. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
Hare Krishna. 2 days ago we have a discussion about the cowboys also fight with Krishna and they compete with Krishna, and then was the question if they know in spiritual world that Krishna is that he's God. So can you explain a little more about how cowboys see Krishna?
They see him with their eyes.
Yeah, I mean,
what is their mood? When we come to prema, we'll understand their mood. We'll begin to understand they're even above prema. There's the stages after prema: sneha, mana, raga. So they're in a very advanced stage. So how can we understand it? If you're 5 years old, if you're 3 years old, how are you going to understand the conjugal pastimes of your parents? You can't understand it. How can we understand it? We're under the illusory energy. We can get a little taste by chanting Hare Krishna sincerely, getting a little taste for Krishna consciousness. But the mood, the rasa of the cowboys, that's not possible to understand in the conditioned state. But they don't, they may know Krishna is God, but they don't take it seriously. Just like we know we're not this body, but we don't take it seriously. Same kind of thing. Anything else? Hvala. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande.